Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're glad to be back. We are the OCD Visual Advocates. My name is Matthew Bannister, IOCDF Grassroots Advocate, and co-host with me is the one and only, the amazing Carol Edwards, author of Staring OCD. Correct me if I just butchered your title there, Carol.
Oh, don't worry.
Address Staring
Yeah,
OCD.
address there in OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today we're really looking forward to talking to you about a subjective functional assessment guide for Visual Tourettic OCD. So, Carol, I will let you talk and start all about this.
Okay then. So first of all, I'll just briefly say what visual tourettic OCD is. So also known as staring OCD. VTO is a type of OCD that involves releasing visual tics that land on people's private regions, including children. Some individuals also get the premonitory urge to stare at people in their periphery, while others report staring at animals' private areas. An obsession associated with a tic might be the fear of being caught and called names, such as a creep, paedophile, bestial, or just plain weird. A subsequent compulsion might be to avoid or escape from people, children, and animals to avoid staring and being called names. So that's just the start, really, to give people an idea of what VTO is if they don't know.
Yeah, that's like I say, you perfectly described it there, Carol, on that one.
Yep.
Would you like to go through, like you say, what everyone's seen now?
Yeah, that's fine. So by asking the targeted questions, that I'm going to read out in a minute, a therapist can gain a comprehensive understanding of, and here's the list, of an individual's frequency and duration, triggers, doubts, consequences, anxiety levels, compulsive activities, underlying fears and concerns, experiences, and motivations, treatment strategies, and interventions. So that gives an overall picture of what the individual is going through. So with that picture, then it really does guide towards interventions, for managing the tic and the obsessions and compulsions.
So it's like another similar way of like a Y box, isn't it? When the therapist can go through that and then it can identify with the symptoms more and what the person's going through with this theme. So like hopefully then they can like give really effective like evidence-based treatment strategies or
Yeah,
like going forward with that or treatment, I should say, sorry.
the white box is approved. This is really just a guide, based on personal experience, some research, and observations with other people of this problem.
Yeah, so it could be like maybe even something more to add, like when someone's like maybe starting treatment, or maybe there could be still a few sessions in there. This could be like another way of like helping more with
Yeah.
treatment, again something that could be more in depth with this theme, so they can identify with things just a little bit more closer.
Yeah, I mean, for therapists who don't understand this variation of OCD, or who want to know more, or who want to understand how to build a picture, then I think this could be helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome, Carol.
yeah. So I'll go through the list, and then if you've got anything that you want to add, Matthew, then I'll stop and let you do them.
Sure, not a problem. I will you go for it, Carol.
Okay, so first we're looking at frequency and duration. Um, so how often, therapists might ask this to a client, how often do you stare at others' private regions or peripherally? By staring, that means releasing visual tics that feel automatic. Next question, how long does each episode of staring typically last? And have you noticed any patterns associated with the frequency of staring, like a particularly a particular daily activity or routine. So I'll give an example there, because it's not on the list. So an example might be public transport. This can sometimes lead to feelings of discomfort or anxiety, especially when crowded and in a confined space. It may contribute to awkward movements and visual tics. But there'll be other examples as well. Maybe you have an example, Matthew?
Yeah. It's like for me a personal experience when I was really going through severely, like the frequency will be quite a lot when I'm triggered. So like for example, when I'm talking to someone and I'm giving them eye contact, like my mindset would be obviously just look at their eyes, don't look anywhere else when I'm talking to that person, or it'd be like look down on the floor, look up to the ceiling. But like I suppose what not everyone else would do, you look around the room. But for when you're in that situation, it's like you are like in the fight, flight, freeze mode.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what's basically going through your mind is like make sure you're keeping giving eye contact all the time, and don't look at obviously at private parts and embarrassing body part places, or like peripherally, like just make sure, let's say if I'm looking somewhere, don't look left or right, they might notice you staring at them. So it's like you're constantly on guard, you're constantly hyper vigilant. And when this is when obviously when I guess nearly anyone's around you that you find triggering. And until that person passes, that's when obviously you feel at ease and you can do like obviously compulsions with that where you just try and avoid the situation.
Yeah, got that. So then we'll go on to triggers. So a therapist might ask, are there specific situations or environments that tend to trigger your staring tic? Are certain individuals or types of people triggering the tic more frequently for you? For example, someone who is strict or wears low-cut or tight clothing around the genital area. And have you noticed any commonalities among the triggers that you encounter? For instance, if someone frequently gets ocular tension and feels the urge to stare, they may be asked if they have noticed any common factors, such as certain thoughts, medications, or environmental conditions that consistently trigger these responses. So that's all the triggers. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's okay if I can, sorry, come in as well, Carol. It's like you're so right with that. Like with people wearing tight clothing, that can be so triggering when you're in that situation. Again, let's say if I'm in the workplace at my old job and someone was wearing like a really tight top, or to keep cool, which is fine, or a short top to keep cool, which is normal. But for us, it's like, well, it's like super revealing, and we're just like on panic mode all the time. As well as like as again with someone's if they're wearing jeans or pants or whatever, tight pants, that can be super triggering. Like if they're sitting next to us and you like sit in that bulge is pretty noticeable. That can be as well, but like, oh my God, I can really see that. I don't want them obviously to think that I'm keep looking at that. And you just basically like just maybe looking at your phone for obviously the easiest compulsion. Or you just turn your back to that person so you know that, well, this is my 100% certainty. Well, OCD is trying to tell me. And that person is no longer in my view, so I'm safe. But then, that's how these triggers come stronger and stronger because like if we see that person again, that's what's going to come towards our mind because it's like, oh, did that person might see me doing that?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe they did. And then you'd be doing even more compulsions in that situation towards that person. And like you say as well, with low-cut clothing, that could be again really super triggering. If someone's going for a job interview, for example, and that that they're getting interviewed by a female colleague, and that woman's like maybe large chested and they're wearing a low cut top, that can be so super triggering. And you'd be like, again, you'd be so hyper vigilant and you'd be like feeling fear factor mode. You just want to be out of that room. You don't want to, or then again, if this is an important job or any job is important, you're thinking, well, I don't want to feel like that I'm disrespecting them or thinking, oh, he's really gawking at me all the time or she. And that can be very super distressing. Instead of concentrating on the job interview, that's all your mind will be thinking about.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Matthew. When I think of some triggers as well, I can identify with what you just said. And I also think, like even in your own home or your family, or when you're socializing and people are making certain movements, or if they stretch, when they stretch around you up in the air and everything's, kind of making you want to look, well, urge to look, because obviously you don't want to. But that is quite tricky.
Yeah, and like when they're doing a as we say, it's like an adjustment. So like if they just want to cross the legs or have you, which they can just be uncomfortable to be comfortable for us, like, oh my word, they're crossing legs on my nose, we're looking.
Yeah, it's kind of like a magnet to the tick.
Yeah. Any movement around those triggering areas, they like say the OCD just loves to latch onto that and your anxiety just spikes. It just goes through the roof. Especially again if it's with other family members, let's say, and obviously we don't want them to think bad of us or think like, oh, that's really weird, why do they keep doing that? That's when the rumination just becomes really debilitating. And again, like even if you're watching something you like, something could be really triggering. Like for me, I like sports, so I like wrestling, I like football, soccer. And were they wearing shorts or they call trunks in wrestling or singlets? So it's basically like Y fronts. It can be really like it was super triggering to me because I love watching wrestling. I think it's so entertaining. And the problem was like when I was really going through it severely, like I would just like, oh, don't look there, you keep doing it. That's just like really weird. Like, does that mean like maybe you're queer, which is nothing wrong with that, of course, but it's like it makes you question your sexuality, and it could be the same again with someone who's queer, but like for like say the opposite sex, they think, oh, does that mean like I'm attracted now to the opposite sex? So it can really just doubt everything.
Yeah, and on that where that you've just said doubt, that's what comes next. So do doubts about your authentic self come into your mind following the trigger? And you've kind of just answered that. Um, I've got an example, like some people worry about why they stare and what it means about them. Yeah, I think you answered that as well. And therapists could ask, how do the doubts affect your thinking and behaviours? For example, some people doubt their true intentions, and withdraw or seek reassurance. Another question, did you doubt your authentic self before you developed the staring tic?
Yeah. Uh, and that's it. I mean, especially with like the reassurance thing. So like you could be like asking people, oh, did if you maybe notice I was looking at you, don't worry, it's nothing weird. It's just that I'm like really vigilant person. Doesn't I don't mean anything bad by it. Or you might even say to someone, oh, did you notice me like looking at you or anything like that? Just for that check, isn't it? That reassurance
Yeah,
right there.
that's right.
Or people again like they will like record themselves like to see if their tick is happening. Problem is when we do that, I can understand why, because people be thinking, well, if I record myself in these situations, then I know if I really am doing it, and then maybe I can start to avoid those situations so this doesn't
Yeah,
happen. Or I can try something different and just keep like checking that. Problem is when we do that, it's just reinforcing the cycle. It's just feeding the beast because we're just giving more attention to OCD instead of, like you say, before this happened, did we doubt our authentic self? The answer will be no, because why should we? We've got no reason to. I always believe that, we truly know who we are as a person with like our core self. And that really validates us. Because if someone was really doing this on purpose and let's say enjoying it, they wouldn't be OCD. They'll be just like they'll have no anxiety over it. They just do it. So that already tells you who you are and that this doesn't define you. Yeah, that's what I'd say with that. If you've got any more thoughts with that as well, Carol.
I just noticed when you were saying that, people might record themselves, um, so that they can see their behaviours and work on how to avoid those behaviours, that kind of thing. But what they can do instead is record themselves so that they can see what the behaviours are, so that they can put the treatment to it, for the tick, really. Um, which comes to habit reversal training. So they can note down what their behaviours are and which habit reversal training technique would work for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like I say, habit reversal training's absolutely game changing in treatment with this.
Yeah.
I think we've got that listed further down, and we Carol, so we can talk about that more, a bit more when we go through this. But yeah, habit reversal, that's a good point. It's a really good point
Yeah,
to raise
I
that.
do notice that. I do note that in my book, about checking what your behaviours are so that you can see how to implement the treatment. Yeah. So now we're up to consequences. So the questions are, do you worry about the outcome of staring? If yes, what do you fear the outcome will be? Have you experienced any negative consequences due to the tic, e.g. strained relationships, professional setbacks or something else? Have you tried to avoid or minimise the consequences of the staring tic? If yes, how?
It's like with me, all this really resonates with me in my journey. Because obviously, and I think everyone who's going through this theme, the main consequence is like we don't want to get caught
Mm,
because we know the
yeah,
repercussions can be really bad. It can be really bad for our reputation. Let's say again at the workplace, with our friends, with where we live, with our families. It can really have severe consequences. But maybe at the same time, it might not. Maybe some people around us who do understand mental health and OCD can then help you recover from this and overcome this. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, another one again, you'd be finding that you might lose your job because of this, or that you might be outcasted by your family,
yeah,
by your friends, maybe, with the relationships, let's say with your loved ones, if they don't understand it, they might unfortunately break up with us because they just don't get it. They think we're just checking everyone else out. And they might see that as a form of like being, maybe I can say the word cheating or being dishonest. And when it's not, it's the total opposite. It's fear factor for us. Or maybe they feel ashamed to be with someone who has this, which is really sad. It should never come to that. But these could be like the obsessional doubts that we can, oh, sorry, the consequences that can happen. But at the same time, it's not always the case. I don't want to say like, everyone's got that smoking gun to their head because that's not the case. I don't want everyone watching this thing be on panic mode thinking that. Just that these could be maybe possible situations, but there are ways where you can obviously validate yourself and explain it, like showing videos, showing, which we talk about as well later in this, um, evidence-based research that can absolutely validate you, and then hopefully your partner, family, or even the workplace, and that'd be amazing. Can help give you accommodation to where you can recover, and that it's like, okay, we understand you. Let's go forward with that. And also, I'm just looking now. So, have you tried to avoid or minimize the consequences of the staring tick? I mean, again, like for me, that'll be with the compulsion side, I guess, would be like to avoid because that's the only thing I
yeah,
can really do find effective. Let's say if I wasn't starting treatment, and if I and also isolate or taught just be with people who I can really trust because I knew with this it wasn't as strong or triggering when I was with someone who I really trusted, even though sometimes it could still happen. It wouldn't be as often, and that person really hopefully would see beyond that anyway because they know who I really am. As well, with maybe they can minimize that. I did try exercise, and that was really helpful.
mm,
So again, in during lockdown, I did lots of Joe Wicks, and Joe Wicks is awesome. I recommend that to everyone. He helped me with nutrition as well as getting fit, and as well as like keeping it out and about, keeping moving. So technically, I was doing like natural exposures without even realizing because this was before therapy. So I wasn't as severely triggered with VTO back then. It was just mainly with females. With males, I was okay.
yeah,
It wasn't as bad. And I was going out. I lived near the beach, so I'd go on walks around the beach. I would go around seeing all the views as well as just like healing anyway. and I was doing lots of hip workouts. I know it's not for everyone, it is really tough. So if you want to do like just like normal walks or a jog, let's say if you've got a treadmill and then want to go for a walk outside afterwards, or go biking, swimming, whatever it may be, whatever you like, it can really, really help, let's say, with our mental health. Problem was with me, I didn't have, let's say, the tools to help me from relapse and lapse, which is normal, it does happen. But it would have been great if I had those tools. So let's say if I saw something that brought back all these memories of it happening again, which is what happened to me, then I could have hopefully then prevented that. And I would have been in a better situation, would have carried on with my growth with recovery.
Very good, Matthew.
Thank you. I mean, if you
With the exercise, I do think it helps.
it does. It really does. The endorphins really help
Yeah, yeah.
of like outbalance anxiety, or puts it in a balance, I should say. So, and the same with nutrition as well, and having a healthy like structure to keep to. And I know that can be really difficult depending what situation you're in. So again, I always say that if you can, it's like having a healthy sleep schedule. So if you can get like 7 to 8 hours sleep, that's really beneficial. It has been for me.
Definitely.
I mean, I know sometimes even for me, I don't always sleep that well, but that can really, really, really help in lessening the triggers, let's say, because you're not even more on edge when you're like, when you don't sleep and you in your I forgot the word for it. When you're really, when you're really tired, and yeah, that can really, really help. And again, I believe with eating healthy foods, like say fish is really, really good if that's okay with your diet. Like depending if you're a vegetarian or vegan. Obviously, if you're pescatarian, that's fine. I recommend salmon and, like I say, tuna. That is really research and evidence based, that it shows that that can really help towards lessening anxiety because it's got the omega-3s. And the same with whole grain foods. It's got all the right vitamins that can really help lessen anxiety. There's tons and tons of evidence-based research out there that proves that.
Mm. Oh, nice.
Thank you.
What's about the consequences? And, sometimes these consequences are, in our imagination, it's what we fear. Well, that doesn't say that something might not happen. It's not because of OCD that this thing happens. So for instance, if we get caught, we can have a coping method. And the one we usually talk about, Matthew, is the pocket-sized business card. That it gives links to reading about or watching about VTU, YouTube videos. To help people understand what these consequences are and how they evolve, from doubts.
Yeah, that can be so game changing. Having that, let's say, if the worst case scenario would happen and you get confronted with this, which I hope doesn't happen for anyone,
Mm.
but if it does, then that can really help in that moment because it can just validate you. And like you say, you can have your information, Carol, from your website, from your book that they can look. And also you could have, like I say, the foundation, the International OCD Foundation. They have got articles with this with Jonathan Grayson. And also you can, like I say, you can have a link for YouTube for our YouTube channel for, again, the IOCDF with Jonathan Grayson and Ethan Smith, who brilliantly talk about it, can really help understand for that person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's NOCD as well.
And NOCD as well, sorry, yes.
So now we come to anxiety levels. So we've got the doubts, we're worried about these consequences, and then obviously we're going to get anxious about that. So the questions here would be, how would you describe your overall anxiety levels? You can gauge this on a 0 to 100 anxiety scale, where 0 is no anxiety and 100 is the worst. Do you experience increased anxiety or discomfort when you feel the premonitory urge to stare but need to bring it to an endpoint? Are there any specific thoughts or worries that accompany your anxiety? Anything to add, Matthew?
Yeah, like you say, with it, like describing the anxiety levels, we can see that maybe it's like from the CBT side of things, what I did with therapy, and then like you can like obviously score yourself with like 1 to 100 or 1 to 10, however you want to do it.
Yeah,
And obviously for me, it was like before I was doing an exposure, then during, and then after. And then try and like and record that during like your recovery journey and see how far you go. And don't get discouraged. Like when you see sometimes where it spikes when you've been doing well, that's normal too. We're all human beings, and eventually it will just like smooth out where it'll have more of like hopefully you'll be hitting like say from the tens and the nines and the eights will go down to like five and fours. And then hopefully the best scenario as well, obviously, be like the twos and ones. But it takes time, commitment, and patience.
well, yeah,
But that's a good way of doing it. Or if you don't feel comfortable, let's say, listing that, you can just go with the flow. In my opinion, this is just for me.
yeah,
But it is a great way. You can do it mentally as well, like recording, you don't always have to write it down. You can just like maybe when you're talking to your therapist, you can just basically just if when you remember that, you can just give the idea right there and then.
yeah. I think it's good that you can do that, mentally gauge your anxiety, so you know what is happening overall. If when I go back, to when my PTO was severe, my anxiety used to go through the roof. Sorry, pretend there, 400, whichever way you want to put it. But now I really don't feel anxiety about the staring anymore. You know, I do still tick, but I've found the techniques to help me do that and then not avoid or escape. If there's any obsession there. But talking about the obsession, that I've had, that's, it, I kind of get like nagging doubts that I want to get in, but I don't pay attention to that anymore. So I would say that in this case, my VTO is not really active, and anyone can get to that stage by really using the strategies.
And that's amazing because it just shows that when you learn the tools that can help you in the strategies, when it's effective, it's game changing because you just master it more and more each time you do it to the point where, like you say, Carol, you just don't really feel that anxiety anymore. Like say we no longer see it as an exposure anymore. It's just a part of life again, which is what we all want. That's like the
Yes,
end
that's
goal.
it. And give these people a tool bag. Use that. What's in that tool bag? That helps you, and you can, move on from it.
Absolutely. And like I will say as well, like I know for me, I'm still if I can call it this, like trauma effects or like PTSD effects from the stigma I receive. Again, that's not for everyone. Again, I don't want to worry people. But for me it was. And it can still be there. But like you say as well, Carol, I can then put them tools in place and to be like in the here and the now instead of like going down the rabbit hole of what it's just a natural response from our minds. It's what the brain is built to do. It's like still saying like this is maybe still a threat, a danger, but again you can use those tools to be like it's like really authentically saying it's like saying like it's okay, like I want to be in this situation, I want to be in this moment, I've missed doing this, for example, or let's say how far I've come in my journey. And I know that this doesn't define me. That can help you recollect yourself and still keep going forward, whatever you're doing right there and then with, let's say, that spike that could happen, or that rise in anxiety, and that can just help balance it out again.
And so, did all of that help you with the trauma?
Yes, it's hard. It's really tough. It can be there maybe for a while, but the feelings have started to dissipate slowly over time. I still feel it to this day,
Yeah.
but it's not as strong as it, let's say, this time last year. And hopefully in the future that can still keep growing with that, and it will start slowly like dissipating over time still.
I hope so, Matthew. I mean, you're putting all the methods into place, keeping yourself fit, eating well. You've got a good mindset, you know yourself. Um, so that's really good, and especially in just a year.
Oh,
So
thank yeah, it's like again, it's learning it, like you say, isn't it? It's all mastering
mm,
all these tools. Again, it's like a workout. You see, like, again, you've got a workout that's one 1 to 10 levels. And when you think, oh my word, that level 10 is impossible to get to. It's like
Yeah.
an insane workout. But you will get there. You will surprise yourself. You'll be like, and you'll be super proud to do it. And that can help as well, I think, with this too. Like obviously giving yourself a big pat on the back, telling support groups, which we'll talk about more as well later in this. That can really encourage you to keep doing that. And that can help a lot because when you're like hearing people saying, I'm proud of you, I'm super proud of you, like you're a warrior, you've got this, you're a badass, that can just really like seriously motivate you to keep going forward. So let's say when OCD tries and shows its ugly head, you'd be like, I've got this, and
Yeah.
I'll just go back to the back seat again.
Yeah, definitely. So now we're up to compulsive activities. So the questions are there any activities or compulsions you engage in to try and avoid or escape releasing the visual tic? For example, you might check everything is okay or seek reassurance. How does engaging in these compulsive activities help you? Have you noticed any negative impact on your daily functioning as a result of these compulsive activities?
And again, for me, it's like obviously it would be avoidance, it would be isolation. So when I was at work, I would like hide in the cubicles, the toilets, because it was the only best place I could have a peace of mind.
Yeah,
Um,
saying.
yeah, because I have the four walls around me. I know when no one's in my vision, I can rest. My mind can rest. Um, as well as like when I'd come home before I told my parents about this, I would give them maybe a little conversation and then I would go to my room. Um, and then that'll be again, I can just rest my mind. I'm not always like alert. I can just breathe. But obviously that's the same time, am I happy doing this? No. But it's the only time where I can have an escape. This is like my release. Or again, like I could drive somewhere, whereas basically I know there's no one gonna be there. And I could just sit there in the car and just relax. And again, that can be fine sometimes. That can be therapeutic, but you don't want to do it all the time, in my opinion. You
No,
all
I think
want to be
eventually you'll change that to mindfulness.
yeah, yeah, and that's what obviously with like we'll see just a bit below with treatment strategies you can do that. But yeah, these are like the really big compulsive ways of like activities. And again, seeking reassurance from people like, did you see me do any weird eye contact? Did you see me noticing you there or anything like that? You just basically always like asking for or wanting reassurance, compulsions, or let's say you might be observing someone in your peripheral, and let's see how many times maybe they might cross their legs. And if they keep it open, you'd be thinking, well, that means that obviously they don't think I'm a creep or a pervert or anything like that because they wouldn't be doing it otherwise. So that's like the little check there.
Mm.
But at the same time, you might be like, oh, did they actually notice me checking for that? And then the cycle goes on again.
Get that. But yeah, that was the same with me, avoidance, mostly.
Yeah, it can be really debilitating, Kai, because obviously you don't want to be by yourself. You want to be around people you love,
Yeah,
even if that's one person or 10 at the same time. We're all human beings are social creatures. The one thing we don't want to be is isolated.
yeah, that's true. That.
And oh, sorry, one more thing as well with compulsions. You could be actively listening to people if they're talking about you as well.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. But
Uh,
you understand it.
yes.
To have to go through that must be quite tormenting, really.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Because you're basically listening out obviously for keywords again like pervert or
Yeah.
like creep. And you know what? They might not actually be talking about us. Maybe if they are saying about that, we assume it because obviously it's what our OCD may be saying. Or the only reason why you're hearing that because they're talking about you.
Mm.
Or like when people walk down the street, they could be saying like, "Oh, that man. Have you heard about that man or that woman?"
Yeah.
When it could be completely something completely different, but we already can assume it's us, and we can go in that same cycle.
Yeah, this is where all the inferences come in, and then we make this story up, so that, like I said earlier, some of it is in our imaginations, but there is always that chance that we can still get caught. And if we do, it's not because of OCD. It's not because of the obsession of worrying that we will. And that's where we use the coping strategy that I mentioned earlier. So now we're up to underlying fears and concerns. What are some of the fears or concerns that drive your compulsive behaviours related to the stare intake? Do you worry about being perceived as wrong and facing judgment? How do these fears and concerns affect your daily life and interactions with others?
So it's like again what we previously talked about really. It's no, our biggest fear is being known as a pervert or a deviant or a weirdo, whatever it is. And ruining our reputation for that. We don't want a bad name, especially when it's something we are definitely not. And also being rejection from whoever you hold really value with.
Mm.
Is what I would say with that. I mean, what would you say, Carol?
I think all of this is kind of like the obsessional side of it, and worrying, um, that uncertainty and the emotions that come from that uncertainty, like worry and anxiety, and then, understanding how to manage those emotions, which really means that you're managing the uncertainty as well.
Yeah, that's brilliantly said. And like again, what we just mentioned now, it's like with the listening part of it, we always want that certainty. So even though we don't want to hear these possible, let's say, things people may be talking about us, but we do it anyway just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a question earlier, how do these compulsions help you? Well, when you're going through it, they help by, in our heads, preventing horrible consequences and reducing the anxiety, and kind of feed into that, and that's what keeps it going and going and going. Then treatment can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like our brain's protecting us, but unfortunately, it's taking away our lives.
Yeah. So now we come to experiences and motivations. Can you describe a recent experience or situation where you felt compelled to stare? What did you think about in that particular situation? For example, some people feel they need to bring the tic to an endpoint by releasing it, but then feel fearful or awkward. Others struggle with obsessions of being a cheat or something else. So while they don't want to stare, they get an incredible urge to do so. Some feel the need to prove their gender, sexual orientation, loyalty to their existing partner, or something else. And last question, have you noticed any patterns when urged to stare? For example, do you behave differently at home than at work, leisure, one-on-one, or other?
Yeah, and I can really relate to this. Like with the compelled to stare, it's like you don't want to do it, but you have no control. So it's like you're trying your best, your absolute best to resist it from happening. Like you can feel it. Like for me, I could feel it, the eye tension, like the sheer just pure fear rising through my body. So again, if I'm talking, let's say, to a male colleague, and I'm cool with him. But at the same time, it starts to really hit hard, "Ooh, don't look there, don't stare there, or not even feeling like just to feel the sensations of it's about to happen when you really don't want it to. And you can really feel that starting like impulseness in your eyes.
Yeah.
It's about to happen. You're like really, really panicking. So that's, in my opinion, where you can really feel that compellingness when it's about to do that. Um, and like, I suppose with like feeling fearful and awkward or saying loyalty to a partner, you can maybe think if you've done that with someone else and your partner is with you, you just think, oh, just in case, I want to just tell my partner how much I love them, like they're the one for me, and that I would never look at anyone else that way. And they're the only one who my eyes, my true love. So those like the type of patterns, I suppose, when it's like if you're like for me, it was with toxic people because I know that they talk about people, so I'm prime target if this
Yeah.
happens. So if it's someone I'm around who I feel very anxious with, and if they're a manager or if they're someone of importance, that's probably when this happens because you have like a value with that, that it can have severe consequences. But when it's with someone, let's say maybe not as nowhere near, or you're in a situation that you're not really that bothered because you might not see them again, then it probably doesn't happen as such because you've got no obsession or meaning for it to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can think of some situations that I've been in where I've felt compelled to stare and I've tried to stop myself. But the more I'm trying to stop, the more I look. So I've had some situations there that haven't been really nice. But again, there are treatment methods, that can help you suppress that, take until you're ready to take that sneak peek. And then you are actually bringing that tick to an end point, but you're doing it in a controlled way so that you don't get all flummoxed like I have. And then feel really terrible, for instance, not wanting to meet the person that you stared at again because you're just so embarrassed.
Yeah, and again, like when I was again talking to a female colleague at work, and let's say that unfortunately that tick released itself, the colleague would in front of me would let's say she had a high vis, she would do this and then she would wrap it, like really intentionally wrap it. And you say, that's so embarrassing and it's so disheartening because again, you feel so ashamed of yourself, but you don't want to do
Yeah.
it. It's something you don't want to, you just want to talk to that person. You just feel like so heartbroken by that. And like you have to see that person in as well in the workplace, and you're thinking, I don't want them to think of this with me. But when you learn with the right treatments, and like you say with the sneak peek, you can choose how to engage with those emotions and know that this doesn't define you, and you can grow your confidence again. Instead of just
Yeah.
being isolated, you still have a chance. You like John says so well in his book, Freedom from Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. You can still go out and try and reclaim your life back, or let's say in the workplace, instead of just living in pure fear all the time. You have a strategy.
Yeah, well said. And talking about strategies, treatment strategies and interventions. So the question here is, have you previously sought any treatment or interventions for your visual Tourettic OCD? If yes, what approaches or techniques have you found helpful or unhelpful? For example, exposure and response prevention or influence-based therapy. Can you think of anything else?
Yeah. So like basically value-driven exposures for me was awesome. I will always recommend that, like with ACT, oh my word. So when we're starting treatment strategies and interventions, I think it's best as we all know to do it in baby steps. So like you were talking before, Carol, with like say that hierarchy of let's say of with the fear of feeling 1 to 10 thinking, okay, well, let's do this in baby steps. How can I take that 100 down to 90 this time? So we're going to do something that's not too like anxiety provoking, but it's still a challenge. But you have a value with it. So for me, I live on the seaside, as you probably everyone who's watched our videos knows that. And I thought it was a great way. There's still people near me, or maybe not too close, but I can see them still on my peripheral. So, like for a Jonathan Grayson sneak peek, if I wanted to just look at some of my peripheral, that's okay. I mean, that person, in my opinion, is no way going to notice. I wouldn't if I didn't have BTO and someone did walk in that far away from me. There's no way. Very highly unlikely. So then you can get really used to doing it again because that's what we did anyway before we was triggered with this. We just wouldn't give a thought to it. We're just curious. It's just out of curiosity. We're giving a sneak peek out of curiosity, and that's totally fine. There's no taboo in that because everyone does it. And it is, and it doesn't mean we're a monster or anything because it's not. We're just being curious.
We're
Uh,
learning how to look like normal
yeah,
again.
yeah. Instead of just thinking I have to look towards the floor or like try and force yourself to do tunnel vision or look straight above to the sky, you can have that freedom to look, around you, and that's totally, totally fine. And again, this is where the mindfulness comes in with that. You can be in the here and now. You can start practicing that. Let's say if you're not so fortunate living in a seaside area, you can find a place, let's say where you live, if that's a city. Somewhere maybe it's a bit quieter than other places that you like to go to. Let's say if there's a park there that you actually like, there's a lot of nice trees there. You can embrace feeling like, say, the wind around you. You can the smell around you if it's obviously a pleasant smell, or if not there enough. You can be present with the here and the now instead of thinking of the fear factor of being caught. You'd be like, well, I'm just going to enjoy being in life again. I deserve to be a part of society. And you absolutely do. And you can start to relearn how to enjoy life once again.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how mindfulness started really helping with me. Kimberley Quinlan's got so many great resources with this. I can't recommend Kim enough. She's got cbtschool.com as well. That gives a great online course for mindfulness with meditation as well. Yeah, it was just, let's say, after walking around that, get myself a bit more enjoying being outside again, enjoying being around people, even if they're not that close to me. That's fine. I'm recovering. Just to be enjoy again going out instead of just being isolated inside. Then after that, I would go, okay, what else is value driven to me? What OCD's taken away from me? So that again, that'll be like going to the cinema. Okay, well, I'm going to try the cinema next. This is a big step, but I love movies. I have a why. So then I would say when I did do this, I have to say this, I did open up to my family. If you don't feel comfortable, that's still fine. Um, but that really helped me. But obviously, when you do open up to people, make sure they understand mental health. So you can do that by showing them, let's say, documents of mental health, see what the reaction is. See videos of mental health, see what the reaction is. And if it's a good reaction, then maybe you can go further to OCD. And if they're still accepting of that and understanding, then you can describe then what theme you have when the time is right for you. But when I did that for me, I'm very lucky that my parents are very accepting and understanding. I know that unfortunately it's not the same for everyone, but for me it was. And that changed everything, changed that complexion. Or if you have a loved one with you, husband or wife, the same thing. If when you feel the time is right to do and they are understanding, that'd be so awesome because they'd be like, wow, they've really let that trust is really there. They've really just told me basically the worst fear. And then they can work with you as a team. So for me, going to the cinema then with that was awesome. I have someone to do value-driven exposures with. Also, I have something of value to watch a movie. And wow. And yeah, I'll be honest, I was still triggered. Even when people going down the aisle or people in front of me, let's say I think they could like, if I'm seeing the back of the head, they might just turn around with that sixth sense that maybe we can sometimes experience. But at the same time, I tell myself, well, this doesn't define me. My parents know they can back me up. I can do what you say, Carol, and show that card if the worst case scenario would happen. And also, I'm going to enjoy the movie that I want to watch. That's the main thing. That's why I'm there. I am going to enjoy this movie. If my eyes dart left or right, wherever else, at body, embarrassing body parts, and so be it. Because at the end of the day, in the cinema, it's going to be pitch black in that room eventually. Are they going to be more concentrated on me or on the movie? And the answer is going to be in the movie. Why would they want to be looking at
Yeah.
me? They paid money, good money to watch a movie they want to watch. So their eyes going to be more concentrated on the cinema. And plus, for them, when people walk that down that aisle, they're probably going to look at that person because they're curious. It's just part of human nature. They just don't think anything of it. And that could be the same thing with us. And you could do that with sneak peek again. That could be a great exposure to do that because when people go down the aisle, they're not going to notice you're looking. They're not even gonna, and even if they do, you can just be curious, like as we always do anyway, and you can just have that inside you, thinking, "Oh my word, they just noticed me. Like this has now ruined my movie time." But like, no, not at all. You're a curious human being. You mean nothing bad by it, and then you can watch the movie afterwards. Like if that person's walking down, you can just look for a second and look away and not think anything of it, and you can say, "I'm proud of myself for doing that. I'm going to enjoy the movie now." It can be really great ways of doing that. Or if you, let's say, if you just, when that person's walking down and you can say to yourself, well, if my eyes that, and so be it, big deal. I'm going to watch the movie anyway. And that's what helped me in that moment. It's like when someone walked down the aisle, if someone would walk by, and so be it. I'm going to watch that movie regardless. And that really helped then dissipate the fear of it because I'm not giving OCD the value or meaning. I'm giving value and meaning to what I want to do in the here and the now, which is watching the film. And it's okay to still feel those anxiety feelings. That's normal. Even if you're in a great place in recovery and they can still sometimes crop up like it does for me, that's fine. I'm still going to try and enjoy that movie as best I possibly can. And
Yeah.
that's the same again, going from for me, going to restaurants, the same mindset, then going further on, seeing more family and friends, then going to a rock concert. Again, I was housebound with this. And then a year later, I was going to go and see a rock concert I really was looking forward to with thousands of people. I thought, there's no way I'm going to do that. I'm going to use every excuse in the book not to go. But the difference was I was looking forward to going because it was a value with mine. I have a why of doing it. And that is the ultimate, in my opinion, one of the ultimate ways of treatment. Sorry for going on about value-based
Yeah.
exposure. But
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really love your value-driven exposures. And I can see how passionate you are. It works, so that's great. And you've good, there was some really good advice there.
yeah, it's a huge tool in my opinion. It just gives you the ultimate motive as well as like, using other methods of other therapy-based treatments, again being the here and the now, and then using like I say with the ICBT part of it with more of the logic base that, is that person really going to notice in this situation? And that can really just help
I
dissipate.
was going to say that as well. It kind of, I kind of sense that ICBT their way, you add alternative reasoning there than what you had before, which helps you, you know, watch your movie or whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and again, if my eyes happen to dart, then I can say to myself, "This doesn't define me. This is that's pure validation."
Yeah,
And I can keep going forward that as well. I can still have that that validation right there, that affirmation that I know who I truly am, and I can have that for me to keep going forward.
yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so the last one there was, are there any specific treatment goals or strategies that you would like to explore? So, individuals might want to, you know, suggest a treatment and go with that.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, sorry, Carol. I mean, would
Here's
you
what
like
we've
to explain more with like the habit reversal techniques and training? With
Yeah, I mean, there's the habit reversal training. When I was starting to understand what my problem was, with this visual tourettic OCD, I started to think, well, the tic is separate from the obsession and compulsion. So I thought to myself, the tic needs treating separately then. And if it is a tic, like you might see in Tourette syndrome, then why not test habit reversal training? And so that's what I did. So really just using a competing exercise, with the premonitory edge to stare. You're suppressing the tic when you do that for a few seconds, until you can do the sneak peek. So we want to bring it to an endpoint, but we can still suppress it, rather than avoid altogether, not doing any treatment. So a competing response might be anything from pushing your biceps like that. And while you're doing that, your mind is on that rather than releasing that tic. And then when you're ready, you can release that and then do your quick sneak peek. So you did it and everything was fine. But remember, if everything isn't fine, you've got your coping method, your little pocket-sized card type of thing. But there's so many different habit reversal training techniques. I can't mention them all here in one go, but they are listed in my book.
and I love that as well, that when you really need to use it, when it's an important situation, it's such a game changer. And like you'd be like, thank goodness I can do that.
Again,
Like,
this
yeah,
one,
like that isn't, yeah.
you can move your head, but psychologically you feel like you can't. So you're restricting head movement so that you don't look.
That's it's such a great
Yeah,
way of doing it because it looks like a natural, just like
both.
posture.
Yeah,
I could even do that maybe and just tense my arms a
yeah,
bit more. And
yeah. I
I
kind of
can
got my arms
focus.
up so you can see, but you would
Yeah.
have them down there. No one would know.
Yeah. You could do it where you can even kind of try when you master it, like try and like relax with that. And then you can just like, let's say if you're on a train or a bus, like same thing, or an airplane, you can just do that. And that can really help in that moment if
Yeah,
you need to use it.
you need
And
to.
what and if it's okay as well, Carol, can we talk about actually I love the upside down triangle technique. I mean, for you,
Yeah.
how like, if you want to demonstrate if that's okay, how we can do that.
Well, I used to look between the eyes, but it never really worked for me. And so what I like better is to draw a triangle. So you've got that shape in that person's face, and you keep your you keep looking into that imaginary circle, and it really just looks like you've got eye contact. We do it together, Matthew,
Yes.
when we meet, and neither of us really think about it. We just do it. And then, as time goes on, it does make you feel more comfortable when you do this, when you're talking to people. And naturally, people turn away and look back. So if you can keep your gaze, when that person looks away, naturally, you can look down and get your sneak peek in. It does take practice, but it does work. I do it, and it works for me. And, it can work for other people as well.
I
So,
mean, if sorry, Capricorn, like as well. Sorry, I'll let you carry on what you're gonna say. Sorry.
no, I was going to ask you what was the actual point? Because I've forgotten it now.
No, no, it's okay. No, I was just saying about if you could like demonstrate as well, like when they do that triangle, like how would you like say draw that on your face? Like for you, Cal, how would you? Because then I'll show how I do it as well. Like how would you draw that on your face to make that effective? Where
My
would you imagine to look
triangle
at?
is like across there,
Yeah,
down, but you can do it across there and up. So
brilliant.
whichever way you want, which
Yeah,
is comfortable for you. And as time goes on, you can learn to just look in the eye just for less than a second. I'm looking in the triangle, my triangle down on your face, and then I might just look into your left eye for not even a second, and then go back to the triangle. So you've made contact, like eye contact, and then do it again, with the right eye.
I love that because as well with the triangles, we know because that's the same for me. I like to do it like that too. Um, the person doesn't notice. I don't notice. They have no idea.
I don't know.
And like you say, when you actually want to just give eye contact just for yourself to like feel like you don't have to like, keep relying on that, and then you can go back to it.
Yeah.
Is
Because we
really
get
good.
eye contact, but we're not really looking into each other's eyes all the time we're
No.
talking. It would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Just a brief, less than a second, half a second is enough. You've
yeah,
made contact with that person, and it's enough.
yeah. Because like as well, like even before we trigger this, we're not just going to talk to someone, give straight eye contact all the time.
Yeah.
Like you say, it would get uncomfortable. We look around the room, and like you say as well with habit reversal techniques, that can come into play. Like you say, we can look at like that side of the room, that side of the
Yeah,
room
that's right.
behind. But it's obviously, like you say, Carol, just then different techniques work for different people.
Yeah. And if you've got a bag of tools, you can choose the ones that work for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love all of that. Should we go on to the next one, next part?
Yeah, so the next part, it says the above understanding will help advise potential treatment strategies and interventions, for example, to address the visual tic and associated obsessions and compulsions. Below is a step-by-step approach to intervention. So step one, understanding visual Tourettic OCD and staring tic. You look like you're going to start laughing. Begin by gathering information on visual Tourettic OCD. You will find some resource links at the end of this video. Investigate the specific characteristics of a staring tic. While there is no data to say it is a tic, OCD expert Jonathan Grayson and colleagues strongly suggest it could be, so we treat it like that. Therefore, it's seen as a type of motor tic where an individual involuntarily fixates their gaze on another person's private regions for a brief or extended period, often causing them distress. Or it might be staring at animals in one's periphery or something different, as I mentioned earlier. Links will be available at the end of this video to help you navigate resources about the tic. Next, familiarise yourself with your client's primary obsession associated with the tic, which might be a fear of being perceived as having different sexual orientation and caught staring at others, or it might be something different, like being appeared by, transgender, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And like I said, I will definitely leave the description in the video below. And sorry about me smiling earlier. I had an unexpected interruption by my family, so I'm sorry about that. I was like, "Don't come through the door." Yeah, I will leave all the information in, like I say, in the description of articles, research, as well as your with your work, Carol, and the same with Catherine Peaker. She's got a great blog with this. And also, she does specialize in visual Tourettic OCD with her OCD treatment. So there's a lot of great options out there. I mean, as well as a great, like, if people want to check this out, like for us, we've just done a video with Jonathan Grayson and yourself for the ISDF online conference, which was just so awesome. And I thank you and John so much for agreeing with that. So you can all check that out too. And we really discuss what VTO is, as well as our videos. And as well at the same time, there is like an ICBT presentation video on YouTube if you want to check that out too, which I'll leave in the link in the description below.
Great. So now we come to conducting a functional assessment. I'll say functional assessment. I don't really want to use that word because then it sounds like it's been approved, and this is really a guide. You know, from personal experience, like I said earlier, and observations. So, but even still, conducting an assessment, if you like, perform an assessment to understand the triggers, context, and consequences of the staring tic and related obsessions and compulsions. Observe and record the situations, environments, and emotions that elicit the staring tic. Determine the consequences or rewards that maintain the tic and obsessional fear, such as relief from anxiety, in brackets reward, through avoidance of a feared consequence, e.g. social embarrassment.
Yeah, and like you say, Carol, this is like this is a subjective functional assessment. This is not like, this is not been approved by any official evidence-based practice or anything like that. This is just like we could say maybe research as well, like something that can help develop treatment
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah. Okay, so then we come to administering habit reversal training. So we're going to call this HRT for short. So explain the principles of HRT to the individual with visual Tourettic OCD. Highlight that HRT is a research-backed approach that focuses on increasing awareness of tics, developing competing responses, like what I did earlier when I folded my arms, and reducing tic-related anxiety. It teaches the individual how to identify the premonitory urge, or the sensation around the eyes, that somatic sensation, that precedes the staring tic. This sensation is often described as a buildup of ocular tension or discomfort. Instruct the individual to engage in a competing response, such as clenching their fist for a few seconds or whenever they experience the premonitory urge to stare. So if you're going to clench your fist, you're going to feel your nails digging into your palm. So that sensation competes with the somatic sensation around the eyes, and gives you that chance to suppress it, until you're ready to release it if you're doing exposures. Or in any situation, it doesn't have to be exposure. It can be whatever situation you're in, you need that. Yeah, I don't know if I've read this, but I'll just read it again. And practice the competing response in various scenarios to enhance its effectiveness and generalization. And I did all of that. I went out and, practicing different situations to see if it worked for me. And I think, well, if it does work, for one person, then surely it will work for a second person and third person. Encourage the individual to engage in regular relaxation exercises, such as deep breathing, to alleviate general anxiety levels. And I do think it's good if you focus on your breathing, whatever situation you're in, then that's where your attention is, not on the tic.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, that's a brilliant way of doing it, and we can do that with like say maybe call it mindfulness with that too,
Yeah.
as well. In yeah, deep breathing exercises we all know can really help relax you and just center yourself. Like when you really do it, really engage with it, and as well with the meditation side of things. Let's say with Kimberley Quinlan's meditation course, which I really highly recommend again on CBT School. Um, um, it's really good for this, and you can practice that doing those methods, and you can do it while you're walking, or let's say if you are in a room with people, you can obviously do it when you're alone and just like remaster that. So yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. So now we've got graduated exposure response prevention. So we'll say ERP for short. Explain the concept of ERP to the individual, emphasizing that it involves confronting feared situations while refraining from engaging in compulsions. Start by creating a hierarchy of situations that trigger the staring tic and corresponding compulsions associated with their specific obsession. Rank these situations from least to most anxiety-provoking. Begin with the least anxiety-provoking situation and encourage the individual to deliberately expose themselves to it without engaging in avoidance or escape behaviours. Utilize cognitive restructuring techniques to challenge and modify the associated obsessional fear. For instance, encourage the individual to consider alternative interpretations of others' reactions, which is what you did earlier, Matthew, and teach them to use coping statements. So, for example, suppose they land the tic on their colleague's crotch, and the colleague appears to react by putting their clasped hands in front of their private region. This could be to guard themselves against being stared at. Alternatively, it could be their usual mannerism. Suppose the colleague is in fact guarding their crotch. In that case, the individual with a tic can use a coping method, such as handing out the pocket-sized card with the information on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. It's like we could see is obviously when you're working with your therapist, or the therapist is watching this. These are really good methods of helping, like I said, the client, as well as the one the last topic we talked about before. Is like when you're doing like habit reversal training techniques with them. Obviously, you can help teach that with them when you're doing that. That can really help them habituate to doing it in real life. And as well, like if it's possible with that therapist, if they're meeting in person, to do the exposures with them, and doing it where you can have, like I say, that hierarchy. Let's say if it's a value-driven hierarchy, and that can really help that the client get their confidence back, as it did with me. Obviously, I didn't have a therapist doing that. But hopefully other people can have a different situation. That's even better to have someone truly to understand what you're going through. You could get no judgment, and you're going to be, if any the worst case scenario would happen, you always have that backing with that therapist as well. But if you have the luxury of that, like so you have the card, if you're doing it by yourself, the business card, and as well, like if you have like a family or loved one, they can help back you up with that too. And obviously with the response prevention side of it, again, let's say if I was going to a coffee shop and I was ordering my favorite hot chocolate or a coffee, instead of like looking towards my phone straight afterwards, I can look towards the billboard and look at like what I'm going to get next time, like we normally do anyway. Let's say before we were triggered with this, or look around the room. That's fine. You'd have to give anyone eye contact. You can just gradually just look around like this. Look at different objects. Like behind me, you see a fridge. I can look in that fridge. I can look in towards the drawers, the cabinets, and just look at different objects, as well as when people are around there, instead of just like doing the straight compulsion of just looking towards the floor or the roof. Or even again, I can look at other people around the room and just do it gradually like anyone else does, just observing the situation where even they can become a blur, let's say, for example, where you're looking around. So yeah.
Yeah. And in when you're just out and about, and you're doing what you just said, and you have got this tension coming into your eyes, there's no reason why you can't just do a sneak peek there and then. And do what we've said, where you smile at someone, you smile at them. And their attention then is on you smiling at them. So when you look down and take a sneak peek, they won't notice. Like, I mean, I can't say for certain, but it hasn't happened for me yet.
Yeah, and I like that as well. Like, say if you're, let's say if it's one person about to walk past you on a street, um, instead of again, like say crossing the road so you're not near that person, you can do that. You can smile towards them, even say hello if that person's friendly. And if they don't say anything and just like and don't engage, oh, that's fine too. But at least you've done a brave, hard thing there, and that's
Yeah,
amazing.
sure. Because you can feel anxious if someone doesn't smile back. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's not what you want. It doesn't matter whether you do get a smile back or not. The idea is that when you smile, that's where their attention is.
Yes.
And then you can take a sneak peek.
Yes. And as well, even if you don't want to smile, that's fine. When you get used to, let's say when you've smiled before and you get that confidence, instead of again just crossing the road to avoid that person looking towards the floor, you can just look wherever you, let's say, deem wish to do so. Look around, like say to the horizon, for example, like you would do, or another building of that takes your interest. That's totally fine instead of just white knuckling through it.
Yeah, and you're right, Matthew. It takes time, to build that confidence to be able to do something like that. I mean, once upon a time, I would never have done that.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Again, it's like you say, learning what we've been talking about and just doing it in a compassionate way
Mm.
and keep going forward as best as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so now we come to yeah, with the exposure anyway. That last one is gradually progress through the hierarchy, ensuring that each exposure is practiced multiple times until anxiety dissipates and the urge to engage in compulsions diminish. I mean, therapists who practice ERP will know this anyway. Um, but it's good to mention it for people who want to go to a therapist and they know that therapist can do for them.
Absolutely. It's like I say, all the community watching this and listening to this, I hope this gives you, like I say, greater understanding if you still haven't reached towards a therapist yet.
Yeah. Okay. Building a supportive environment. Encourage the individual to educate close friends, family members, colleagues, and teachers about their condition, specifically about the visual tic and its association with OCD. I really don't know, how difficult that might be for someone. I mean, you told your family that worked for you. Um, you know, but if people can, then it could be helpful in the long run. Promote understanding, empathy, and acceptance within the individual social circle to reduce potential stresses related to the tic. Encourage friends, family, teachers, and colleagues to avoid drawing excessive attention to the tic or expressing negative judgment during tic episodes. That would have been helpful for you in the workplace, Matthew.
Absolutely.
And facilitate peer support by sharing success stories or connecting the individual with support groups for OCD. And we've got one that we can mention.
Yes, we do. We've got amazing support groups. We're so lucky with that. Like I host my support group, and that is for OCD Warrior Badass Tribe. And you can join. It's every Saturday, and that time for me would be for the VTO would be 9 p.m. GMT UK time. So that would be 4 p.m. Eastern time in USA, and it's free. You can join that. Everyone has the same disorder. You are not judged. It's a welcoming space, and we're there to empower and encourage you to overcome all the obstacles this can put in front of you. And as well, when you don't want to talk about this theme, you can talk about anything and just have a normal conversation. Just have some
Yeah.
good vibes. And that's what it's all about, to feel human again.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's other great support groups as well. Obviously, like I love Mike Sizemore. He's on OCD Friends and he is amazing. I really recommend Mike. His support group time start at 7 p.m. Eastern time in USA, and that'll be midnight in the UK. Even that sounds pretty late, but if you're a night owl like me, I really recommend it. He's just an awesome guy. Again, I've got a support group page, again, like with OCD Warrior Badasses Tribe on Facebook, you can join, and as well with our Facebook group as well for the BTO, which is Peripheral Vision slash Visual Tourettic OCD. You are so welcome to join that. The groups are very active, very consistent in conversation, so you can just come in and out anytime you want and just chat. And we all give each other like guidance that works for us and a recovery strategy. So it's just a great, nice, safe space.
Yeah. So now we've come up to monitoring progress and adjusting strategies. So continually assess the individual's progress in suppressing the staring tic and manage the associated OCD symptoms with ERP. Utilize objective measures such as tic frequency charts or self-reported scales to track the tic severity and frequency changes over time. Adjust the HRT and ERP strategies based on the individual's feedback and specific challenges encountered during the implementation process. For example, explain how to suppress the tic until ready to take a furtive glance at someone's private area or peripherally, and assess how that is working for them. Think of Jonathan Grayson, who calls a furtive glance a sneak peek, which we've mentioned. Maintain open communication with the individual and provide ongoing support and encouragement to reinforce their motivation and commitment to managing their symptoms. Acknowledge and celebrate any significant reductions in the staring tic, decreased avoidance behaviours, or improvements in coping with the primary obsession. Encourage the individual to share their success story with others, as hearing about real-life achievements can inspire hope and empower others with visual tourettic OCD. The IOCDF is a good place for sharing stories. If necessary, refer the individual to a mental health professional experienced in treating OCD, visual tourettic OCD, and related tic disorders, who can provide additional guidance and support. Maybe should mention trauma in there as well, because you can do EMDR, can't you, for your trauma?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Carl.
No, carry on. I was just going to mention the disclaimer, but say what you want to say first.
No, it's okay. No, you go with the disclaimer.
All right. Well, the disclaimer is it is crucial to consult with a licensed mental health professional or qualified clinician when implementing therapeutic interventions for individuals with visual tourettic OCD and OCD. The provided guide is this provided guide is for informational purposes only.
Yeah, and I love all what you just said there. Again, monitoring progress, like so if you want to write it down mentally, however you want to do it, as well with adjusting strategies as well. We always like grow in our recovery journey, learn new things what work for us, maybe some other things don't, and we can go forward with that. So yeah, and I believe, and as well with the IOCDF, like say sharing your story when you feel ready, it's a big, big step. It's so empowering. And like for me, being an advocate like yourself, Carol, with the IOCDF,
Yeah.
it's incredible. It gives you really great motivation to to be where you can say to other people, I found my way doing the hard things, the brave things, and you can do it too. Because if I can do it, you can do it. And that can really help in your recovery as well, because it just gives you really good meaning and purpose to do, let's say, further harder things with this. And again, if it gets too overwhelming, that's fine too. We're human beings and we can take a break and go again. So, but yeah, I really recommend like advocacy, whoever wants to do that. It's just changed my life completely. Connecting with the OCD community, like connecting with yourself, Carol, it's just huge. Knowing again that you're not alone. There is millions around the world with with this disorder and so many different themes. Like Kay, you done says so well, like it's the same gross ice cream flavor in so many different ways, in so many different other flavors. It's just brilliant. And I listen to podcasts as well. It gave me so much knowledge. Like what you're listening to right now, what you're watching right now, it helped me so much understand this so much more and to get to where I am today.
Yeah. So I think we've come to the end.
Yes.
Yeah, got links there, haven't we?
Yeah. So like I say, further reading information. There's your amazing book, Carol, with Address, Staring at OCD, How to Manage Visual Tics and Obsessions. I recommend that to everyone with Visual Tourettic OCD. It is an incredible book. The knowledge that Carol gives is just mind-blowing and it's amazing. So thank you again, Carol, for like putting all your work into that.
And I'd like to say thank you to everyone for being here and watching this video. And we look forward to making the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all again, like I said, for watching. It's always a privilege to, advocate and yeah, just give you as much awareness, resources, information as possible. It's always an honor. As well as like, you can go on the website, the International OCD Foundation for resources. There is NOCD for great resources as well. They do live streams every week. So on Tuesdays, you can go on Community Conversations with Ethan Smith, and that is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, midnight UK time. Also, they do town halls and Faith and OCD Roundtable with Katie O'Dunn at the same time. On Wednesdays, you have Ask the Experts with the amazing Chris Tronston and Liz McInvale. That's at 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, America. And yeah, they do other special live streams as well on Thursdays and Fridays, and you can see them on all social media platforms. And same with NOCD. Every Wednesday, you have Patrick McGrath who hosts, as well as Jonathan Grayson goes on there as well, and that's amazing. You can ask like the two maverick therapists, like the A team. They are just incredible. The knowledge there is just amazing. I so recommend watching that. They are great people. You can have good vibes with them. You can have a good laugh too. And also, like I say, your website, OCDwriter.com, you've got amazing blogs on there. Your information, your wealth of knowledge is just incredible. And they can check you out on Instagram as well on OCD top. Is that correct? Is it OCD topics on Instagram?
Yeah, at ocdtopics.com. No, it won't be at .com. At OCD Topics.
Yeah. Oh, on Instagram. Don't act confused.
Yeah.
It's
Another resource as well, Matthew, influence-based cognitive therapy. That if people go to icbt.online, there's a video on there about visual tourettic OCD as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And like I say, and it's all free as well. You've got modules on there if you want to learn more with ICBT, it's all free. It's just incredible again, knowledge space there. I also recommend as well Kimberley Quinlan. I've said it a few times on this video. If you type Kimberley Quinlan website, you will come up with that on her homepage as well as cbtschool.com. Her podcast is Anxiety Toolkit. It's awesome. It's super knowledgeable, and Kim's amazing. Same with other podcasts like Katie O'Dunn's. That's amazing. I really, really recommend that. That is Scoop on Scoop, if I said that correctly. And as well, OCD Stories with Stuart Ralphie. They're just tons of knowledge, and we get other advocates as well from there for who have got visual Tourettic OCD and have given their story and shared their story. Pernell Taylor's, I believe, is episode 404. Don't quote me on that. I'm sorry, Pernell, if I've got that wrong. I really recommend listening to that. And also, I'm very, very fortunate recently to have done a podcast with OCD Bunked with Jenny, and she's amazing. So you can check that out as well. And let's say, Carol, you've done podcasts as well. And you've done streams with Deborah Gray, if I remember rightly. And that's a great listen to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope everyone again has enjoyed the stream. And Carol, would you like to end on any empowering words or inspiring words for anyone listening?
I think I'd say that there are treatment methods out there. It is in people's awareness more than it was. So I think I kind of get the feeling that people are going to be really anxious about this and thinking, oh, there's never going to be any solution. But there is. And it's basically learning all of the strategies that there are out there. Build your tool back up and use the ones that work for you.
I love that. That's so true as well. And the way I'll end it on as well, like this can be really super debilitating. but it's not the end. It's not like you think your life is over.
Mm.
That's totally not the case. You can recover from this. You can overcome this. There are OCD specialists that can really help you recover from this. And if you do struggle, like I said, NOCD do online treatment as well. You can reach out to NOCD. And IOCDF have listings as well called Find Help on their resource section. And you can find an OCD specialist near you. And in the UK as well, you have OCD UK that give special OCD specialist listings on there. So thank you everyone so much for joining. You are amazing. You are awesome. You are all warriors and you are so brave going through your journey. And I promise you, you will overcome this. Even if, as Ethan Smith says so greatly, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you will go to the end of that finish line and you are even climbing the top of the mountain of recovery and you'll be cheering like Rocky Balboa saying, yeah, I've done it. Because you will. And we're all here to cheer you on as well and always motivate you. So thank you everyone so much for joining. Say we are OCD Visual Advocates, Carol Edwards and Matthew Bannister, and we will all see you next time. So see you later, everyone.
Bye, everyone.